Today, I am presiding over case number CCR 3002, Humanity v. His Grace, Arthur Thorpe. The defendant, who is known to all, has been brought before this court on the charges of violating the following parts of the Charter. Clause 4, Section 3, Section 23, Criminal Conduct, Treason. Chapter 4, Clause 3, Section 23, Criminal Conduct, Involuntary Manslaughter. Chapter 4, Clause 3, Section 3, Obstruction of Operations. Chapter 4, Clause 3, Section 13, False Statement and Records. How does the defendant plead to each charge?
Not guilty on every charge.
All right. Prosecution, you may begin your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I stand here before you all today at the hands of justice for humanity. Before I begin, I must state that this trial was not a result of any personal vendettas, for I believe that Arthur Thorpe was a good friend to myself and an excellent father to his children. However, the interests of humanity as a whole should supersede any of these other factors, as a king is the leader of nations. On the 2nd of April in the year 830, I had learned from a new companion, many know now as Ivor Lint from the stationary guard beyond our walls, that defendant Arthur Thorpe knew of grave dangers that were coming to Paradise. Obviously, seeing as I've never met Ivor before, my doubts were beyond reasonable, but I, and many others, based on intuition, decided to investigate further upon this. This led to all cards being revealed in Mirvik on the 3rd of April, where the king, in contrast to him pleading not guilty to all these charges, ironically is in fact guilty to every charge that was stated today. Arthur Thorpe is the reason we, humanity, were ill-prepared for the great war that is unfolding before our very eyes. The breach in the West was a result of Arthur's incompetency and incohesion amongst the military's highest command. This itself should be enough to prove his guilt. What he hid in darkness, the enemy exposed in blood and tarnish.
Okay. Defense, you may begin your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I stand here before you all today not as your king, but as a fellow subject within the walls in search of mercy. Before I begin, I will have it known that whatever sin my family or I may have committed was in favor of humanity and out of desires to protect its people against the harsh environments beyond the walls. Although we held the history of Paradise and the vast lands beyond within our grasps, it never left the eyes of the small folk. It was hidden within plain sight. This begs the question, were my family and I truly responsible for the total negligence of the public in retaining their own histories? Or were we the ones who stood up and protected its integrity at all costs?
Move on to the witness statements. Prosecution, you may call forth a witness to testify, if any.
The prosecution calls Arthur Thorpe to the stand.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear it.
Prosecution, you may proceed.
Arthur Thorpe, in the deep cave of Mirvik, where that realm can be accessed, you were heard by over 15 commanding officers very clearly admitting to withholding information from us, the military command. Am I correct in saying so?
I won't deny this. I did indeed admit to withholding information from the people of the walls and its military officers. However, I did this with humanity's best interests at heart.
Very well. You mentioned humanity's best interests at heart, but I find this statement very improbable. If this was true, Arthur, why was Fenrir breached as a result of your incohesion?
I myself had no ties to that catastrophic event. I weep for the refugees of Fenrir, and had hoped that the military had acted with more precaution in handling this breach of security. How am I to blame for the tardiness of the military in their defensive procedures?
Arthur, you were the one holding information about the fact that there were sentient titans, now what we call shifters, out there much like Ivor, from your highest command. We were only told of this information by force, with your reputation as king at stake. 3 days prior to the breach in Fenrir. Had the military been knowledgeable of this far beforehand, which you could have easily made possible, Arthur, we wouldn't have lost 30% of the population of Fenrir. Hindsight is a wonderful thing and you were able to grant us this advantage. Are you honestly saying that your negligence didn't lead to this tragedy?
As you've just stated yourself, you had no knowledge of the true histories. You had knowledge of the true histories 3 days prior to the breach. Had you and the other militant officers had proper arrangements, Fendir and its people would have been safely hidden behind the walls of Ansel, unharmed.
Arthur, I'm quite disappointed a man who's very informed of military matters can speak with such a lack of substance regarding it. It was because of the fact that we knew 3 days prior that we were able to save the majority of the district's people. Regardless, I have one final question for the defendant. Why is it that you are still withholding information from the military command? You were ordered to tell us the whereabouts of each artifact to the best of your knowledge, and myself, Bella Devaste, Blanks Artemis, Noah Artemis, and Kaido Kenshi are yet to receive such reports.
I must admit, I lied and conspired against you so you would spare my life. I do not know of their whereabouts.
Your Honor, if he was to lie about something like that as he has openly admitted in court, what's to say that anything else that comes out of his mouth is truthful? Anyways, I do not wish to be cyclical. That is all towards the defendant from the prosecution, Your Honor.
Very well. We shall move on to the next witness.
I'd like to call forward Corporal Ivor Lint of the Stationary Guard.
Now, before we begin, do you understand that you have to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I understand.
Very well. The prosecution may proceed with examining the witness.
Ivor, after we were left by Ragnar, you mentioned that the royal family were left with the secrets and knowledge of our nation. Would you be able to elaborate on this?
I will try my best to elaborate within the best of my capabilities, for I am no historian. I have in the past stated that the last which is known to us foreigners is Ragnar's disappearance and the royal family taking power in his stead. It is safe to say they kept your history under tight security.
So, as a person who knows equally to what Arthur Thorpe and his predecessors knew, would you argue that if Arthur had warned us ahead of time, we would have a better chance of defending Paradis against the coming war?
I do believe that if Paradis had ample warning, that they would have increased chances of attaining victory within the coming war.
With you being the closest we have to an expert witness, your opinion does in fact matter in this trial, Ivor. Would you find probability and reason in Arthur's argument of withholding information for the sake of protecting Paradis?
I've publicly shown my disdain against the crown and the path they have chosen and do not agree with it whatsoever.
Thank you, Ivor. That is all from the prosecution towards this witness, Your Honor.
Defense. Do you wish to cross-examine the witness?
I have but 2 questions, Your Honor, if I may.
You may proceed.
Alright. What was the original mission when you were first sent to our walls? Why should our people put their trusts in you?
As I have admitted in the past, I was first sent here to uncover who the current founder was and report back to my nation beyond the walls. This, I've always been truthful about. And since the revealing of my identity, I can say before all the people within this room today that I have not once defied your trust in me. Every question that I was asked was answered with honesty. Much unlike your king, who has betrayed your trust and led you to an uncertain future, I am here to aid humanity however it may need me.
This is madness! The man who stood before you all today was sent here to harm us. Yet you take his word over the word of your ruler? You came here to weaken our defenses, did you not? You were sent here to take what was rightfully ours, were you not? You were sent here as a test to our strength.
Objection! He's badgering, Your Honor! Your Honor, he's badgering!
Order. Order. The objection is sustained. Defense, you are in the environment of a courtroom. Please act accordingly. Do you have any further questions for the witness? Or shall we move on?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. This witness is excused. Does the prosecution have any other witness they'd like to call forward?
I'd like to call forward Commander-in-Chief of Paradis' military force, Bella Devaste.
Bella Devaste, do you understand that you have to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalty of perjury?
I understand. I will speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right. The prosecution is free to question the witness.
Bella, on the day of the breach, how did you feel afterwards knowing that we could have mitigated the damage to the civilians of Fenrir if only Arthur Thorpe had provided us with the necessary information?
I felt hopeless and betrayed once I learned of this. I felt like I could have done something with the information the king was withholding. The bloodshed which occurred could have been prevented, but the people we lost that day were lost in vain.
As Commander-in-Chief of the military, how did your trust waver for Arthur Thorpe following these tragic events?
My family, the Devaste lineage, have served the royal family for years preceding us. Arthur Thorpe was a man I once looked up to, yet now my loyalty falters in the face of lies. I pledged my sword to a king, not a liar cloaked in a crown.
I see. Now it has also come to the recent attention of the military that the Crown Prince Leif Thorpe initiated a task force composed of SOS members as well as Vanguard to execute Ivor if the time comes. Did you have any say on this matter?
I did not have any inclusion within this task force. In fact, it was hidden from me, as Leif went behind my back to use my men in order to fulfill his own objectives based on his personal vendettas. He also threatened the lives of the men tasked with such targets that if a word was to get out about this hit squad, he would have their lives taken.
That is all from the prosecution towards this witness, Your Honor. I'd also like to add that we have no further witnesses to call forward, Your Honor. I believe a liable case has been made already.
Very well. Does the defense desire to cross-examine the witness?
I did not.
All right. We shall move on to the witness statements from the defense's side. Defense. Do you have any witnesses you'd like to call forward?
I would like to call forth my son, Crown Prince Leif Thorpe.
Leif Thorpe, do you understand that you have to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Defense. You may begin to examine the witness.
My son, please answer in all honesty. Do you believe the actions I have taken were worthy of a king to Paradise?
I believe whatever my father may have done was within the best interest of humanity.
Do you truly believe it was within humanity's favor for me to reveal the truth sooner?
I do not. I believe it would have caused an uproar within the walls, and it would have put us in an even worse position than we are in right now.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Nor do I have any other witnesses to call forth.
All right. Does the prosecution wish to cross-examine the witness?
I do, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Leif Thorpe, you admit to knowing as much as your father. Would I be correct in saying so?
That is correct, yes.
And a day prior to you revealing that you knew, you also spoke to me and my section commander Zane Devaste upon the walls of Elk, saying that if our intuition was incorrect in your father's knowledge of such history, that you would kill us personally, all under the pretense of you knowing that what we were saying was the truth. Am I correct in saying so?
That is also correct.
So if you are lied to our faces, the military's most reputable men, why is everyone in this courtroom today expected to believe a word you uttered in regards to justifying your father's incohesion?
I could have denied what was presented, yet I admitted to my fraudulent words. Why would I thereafter proceed with the lies when I am put on stand to face all of my dear subjects?
The same dear subjects you and your father lied to for years and years, hiding away behind lies. The same dear subjects you've shackled to ignorance with your deceit. Do you really expect anyone, as a civilian of Paradise, to trust you anymore?
Those who have the proper education and upbringing will always stand behind the crown, no matter the circumstances.
That's all for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Due to no further witnesses from either the prosecution or defense, we shall move on to the closing statements before I reach a verdict. Defense. You may proceed.
I do not have much else to say other than all that I have done was out of the love for my people, and to please show mercy upon my family.
If that is all from the defense, the prosecution may move forward with their closing statement.
I stand here before you today to tell you that the charges against the king are not merely about withholding information. They are about the deliberate endangerment of Paradise and its people. Arthur Thorpe, entrusted with the highest of duties, chose to shield critical knowledge that could have safeguarded countless lives. 75,000 innocent civilians dead from a man who kept his command in the dark. This reign of shadows must come to an end.
All right. I shall now step to the side to process all the information and arguments and to reach a verdict. Excuse me. Arthur Thorpe, you stand before this court having been charged with the gravest of crimes. Treason against humanity itself. You have betrayed the trust of your people, withheld vital knowledge, and by your actions led to the suffering and death of many innocents. Furthermore, you've been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter as the lives lost under your reign are directly linked to the failure to act when you should have. Your obstruction of military operations has crippled our defenses in a time of great peril. And lastly, your false statements and fraudulent records have eroded the very foundations of trust that this once held this kingdom together. It is the finding of this court, beyond any reasonable doubt, that you are guilty on all accounts. Your actions have endangered the very future of humanity. And for these crimes, I hereby sentence you, Arthur Thorpe, to death by execution. May the weight of your treason be a reminder to all that no one, not even a king, is above the law. Court is adjourned.